Hey everyone, this is Maddie Regis, paid media manager at Automox, bringing you another episode of IT Insiders, Automox's podcast that introduces you to the people behind the product. March over here is all about Linux, so we are bringing back a former guest of the pod and somebody who is also now an Automox podcast host as well. You can find him dropping all of his knowledge on the Automate IT pod. So, welcome back, Jeremy Maldonado, who is a senior solutions consultant here at Automox. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Maddie. Cool to be back. I've yet to be introduced as a return guest, so that was a first. So thank you.
Yeah, this is the first for the pod as well. This is the first time we've brought someone back, so it's exciting that we've been doing this
Oh,
that
I'm a
long.
double first. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I've officially made it.
Yeah,
I'm excited
you're
to tell my
famous
mother.
now. For sure. All right. So I know we've obviously had you here before, but maybe there's probably some people listening that didn't listen to the original episode or may just have forgotten. It's been a minute. So give me a quick recap of your career and just a little bit about your Linux background, like how that came about and how that kind of ties into everything.
Sure. So prior to Automox, I spent 9 years in the web hosting industry, which is very much dominated by Linux. Um, in a lot of circumstances, I worked with shared hosting servers using servers that are going to host websites for Magento or WordPress, and there was other CMS required as well. But obviously, I went into web hosting at the same time that WordPress was just taking over the world, and it's still such a prevalent force there. But as mentioned, a big driving force of the web hosting industry was empowering everything on Linux. Linux, and so much of this was based on open source technology, having to manage web servers with Apache or Nginx. WordPress and Magento require a database. So then by this, you're going into like managing a little bit of MySQL too. So there was just a lot of things. And of course, when it came to Linux, there was so much that you just kind of have to learn by doing. It was very common for me to have servers and they would just break, or like I would install WordPress like on a really old version of PHP and everything would bust. So I have to just learn by trial by fire. It wouldn't get intense in times, but it was good. And this gave me a background for, I started my career in customer success, transitioning into support, sales engineering, systems engineering, and but it all started because of my experience with needing to learn Linux web hosting servers. When I came to Automox, I was able to share a lot of this Linux knowledge, but I also had to embark on new journeys too. So there's a lot of relativity. There's a lot of things that are just connected, but there's also a lot of things that you just have to take that knowledge and adapt it. But I am really grateful for Linux because I still use it to this day. And it's whenever I go somewhere, and it's very rare, but if I go somewhere and somebody just mentions at all that they're a Linux user, like we're like immediately like we've been in the trenches together.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I feel like that's sometimes the best way to learn is just like, you get thrown into that problem solving and you just got to figure it out. And then, it just kind of sticks in your brain. So I'm sure that
Yeah.
was also helpful for, transitioning over here at Automox to your roles, both in like engineering support, sales.
Yeah, there's a lot, and it's just all in there like an encyclopedia, like a little wiki that's in my brain that like it's just information that's never going to get accessed until one day, you know, and it takes me a flashback, So I'm glad
Yep.
it's there, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. It's like that little like hidden file. Your brain like pulls it out, dusts it off. Okay, so follow up to that. I'm curious how this answer is going to go, given what you just said. But what's your favorite thing about working with Linux systems?
um, for why I love using Linux is just that how fast it is for me to get something up and running. And I think anyone who's like has any familiarity with Linux will be able to tell you that it's just so lightweight compared to if I needed a server that was going to house an application or store data. Um, and at least for me, someone who just I've had to trial by fire, I've had to learn this so many times. Um, if I needed something to get some code running or get an application hosted, I could do it in a matter of minutes. And this is, of course, just because I've had the experience and I've made the mistakes. I've walked some of these paths before for having to do anything, on I hate to say it, a Windows server. It would just kind of slow me down. And I don't necessarily think that that's because Windows Server is worse for me, but I think that just Linux is intended to be fast, lightweight, and also I can customize things to give me only the tools that I need. If I wanted a Linux hosting server and I wanted to test web requests, I could get a Linux server with Apache up on it in, just a matter of minutes, have it connected to the internet, and I can have it to make requests to or anything. And, like I said, just because of my experience, I could do this, get the server spun up and install only the packages I need without anything extra, without opening myself up to bad actors because I installed extra servers or extra programs that are going to open up ports. This just lets me work fast. And I must admit, I'm a little unlike some people. When I create a Linux server and I'm done with it, I destroy it and I never think about it again. That's something that I can't really do. Like with this MacBook, I open up some emails and then I chuck it out the window. Like, that's not how it works. So
Interesting. Yeah, that is not something that I realized, and especially again, like as somebody who has familiar in the tech space, but obviously is not working in the weeds every day. That's an interesting thing to learn about the differences between Windows and Linux. So I feel like I like Linux more now that I'm learning more.
I'll share my screen one day and you can see me destroy it. I could break a server real quick for you.
I love that. Amazing. And yeah, and good to know about the security too. I mean, right, that's just something, it's always something to think about when you're kind of weighing pros and cons of
Yeah,
setting up something like that. So,
at least in my experience, if from the moment that you might download Apache or Nginx or MySQL, there's ports that are going to try to be that service will have to listen on a port. And I think in today's IT ecosystem, there's so many services that you can go to get a Linux server. And oftentimes that they will protect you, or, they have firewalls or built-in security groups or something that try to protect you. But in my experience, coming from web hosting, hopefully no one watches this and wants to, slander me. But for us, the idea was, how do we host something as cheap as possible? And usually what that means is everything's kind of, manual. Coming to Automox, where I was given so much empowerment to automate things, where in the past it was I have to be granular and specific. So oftentimes it was like if I didn't know what I was doing, I was opening myself up to, some malice.
yeah, right.
So,
The whole can of security worms
yeah.
of hacker worms. So, okay, if this is a hard hitting question here. If you had to choose one operating system to work with for the rest of your career, that's it. You can't switch back, can't expand. Would it be Mac, Windows, or Linux?
I could never switch back.
Nope, you got to commit to it. It's just that one for the rest of your career. I mean, obviously, when you retire, like in your free time, you could go back to the other ones, but got to just pick one.
I guess it's Linux.
All right. Well,
Now
that's
that
very
that would
on
probably
theme.
upset, my friends and my family, because I hear so many stories of people like, I think back in the day, right? That sounds so old. Back in the day when you would go to someone's house and they would have like a house computer, and someone would be like, let's use your computer to like play the Magic School Bus or something. Like, everyone had a house computer and it was typically Windows. But occasionally, like I've always had a Linux system at home. And I remember at times where someone might like, hey, let me use your computer to do something. And they have no clue what they're looking at. And so I'd run into that issue. But I think that also, like obviously we want to talk about servers, but from a personal perspective, I've also seen Linux grow. Like, there's, I don't know if I can say names of companies, but there's people out there making ready to buy, ready to ship Linux systems. And you've got Linux Mint and Cinnamon, like these really cool desktop environments. So I could grow old with that. I could retire with Linux Mint, and then now like you have gaming on Linux. So it's cool. It's cool to see it grow, and it's also exciting because as I see it grow, I get to look back on my career and say, "Wow, I've kind of been a part of seeing." And obviously, Linux is not new, but I've gotten to see it become more mainstream, and in a good way. I've gotten to see people want to learn it and be excited to use it more, be excited for new distributions to come up. Like it's exciting. I'm glad to be a part of that.
So you've been a part of the journey. It's kind of like one of your buddies that you see, like progressing. You're like, yeah,
Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, or and I see someone out in the real world wearing like an Ubuntu shirt, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to go harass this person, but maybe I should ask them a question or two.
right? Yeah, I love it. Okay, well, let's get to just a little bit more about you. This is a little more of a personal question, but what do you get up to outside of work when you're not doing Automox things? Maybe you're doing some Linux things on your own free time. I don't know, but
Oh gosh, I'm gonna be honest. No. I mean, if I have to, if I have to like throw down with a Linux server, then that's fine. Um, Now I am expecting my second child in May.
yay, congratulations.
I don't know why it took so long to answer that. It's May, and I can't be late for that. I don't want to mess that date up.
No, pretty
But
important.
yeah, and I've gotten really into reading. Thank TikTok for that, I suppose. And now I've been playing guitar for 20 years. So that's, those two things and, children, those things really take up the most of the time. But if I can help it, I'm trying to do anything I think creativity is important. Sometimes when you spend all this time troubleshooting, like Linux, for example, your brain needs an opportunity to just do something new. Creativity is really good for that. So reading books has just been really good for me, really good for my stress levels, but also playing guitar, having that as an outlet is just, that's really important. I think that taking care of yourself outside of work, exercising muscles that you wouldn't use in like a professional capacity, these are things that are just really important. Um, and I stand by that, and I try to practice it too. So if it's cooking, if it's playing guitar, if it's just reading, these are things that you know like your brain is a muscle, and to me these are relaxants. Those are important. They're necessary.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. I'm also very much in that camp. I think we might have just gotten our soundbite from this episode, which is, not a Linux soundbite, but I think that's super important for everyone, no matter what stage of their career they're in, or even
Agreed.
any
Yeah.
industry. Yeah, no, I
Yes.
think that's
Agreed. I can't relate to lawyers and doctors and astronauts. Like I just cannot do it. But I can say from perspective that I do know what stress could do to you. I know the importance of taking care of yourself. And I also think that I've learned a lot um, during my IT journey. I know what it's like to stand face to face with a problem. At 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., you start your day, you're looking at a problem, and it's kind of like math. You don't want to stop until it's resolved, until it's done. And
yeah,
you have 7 p.m. days, 8 p.m. days. Maybe something blew up at midnight and someone calls you. Unfortunately, if you're working with servers, that happens. So,
yeah,
and I had to learn this balance. I had to be reminded to um, exercise my brain, stimulating it with things that weren't just IT. Like that was essential for me. And also I think I'm better professionally because of it.
yeah. I would 100%
Yeah.
agree. I think it helps you kind of expand your mind for things at work, and then yeah, it just helps you sort of decompress when you're not there. So love it. Okay, last question, and then we're going to move on to our game, which because it's Linux, we're going to be talking about penguin facts. But before we get to that, um, what is one fun fact about your career? Just like rapid fire, what comes to the top of your mind?
Oh man. Is it sad that I don't sometimes I'm like fun and Linux. I'm like, okay, or fun and IT. I mean, most people are just like, Oh my gosh, this is bad. This is. I'm glad I gave you a sound clip like a moment ago because this is not. I mean, probably some of the most exciting things that I've gotten to do in my IT career is just the people that I've met. I've gotten to meet people who have gotten to work hand in hand with like creating major Linux distributions. I got to hope I don't regret saying this. I've gotten to work with and meet with a lot of people that are related to the Alma Linux Foundation or people that were directly associated with Ubuntu and Canonical. Those are really exciting for me. But now, even coming into Automox, I'm getting to meet people who just like really have their finger on the pulse with like Microsoft updates and like there's so many cool people that like have major amounts of influence in IT. And I'm like, I get to learn from y'all. I get to learn from these people who are like just so on the like just on the cusp, on the cutting edge of really
Yeah.
cool advancements of our industry. Those are, and to me, that's always kind of fun. You know, not necessarily because I'm like skydiving or doing bungee jumping and doing these super exciting things, but to me, it's kind of like, oh, like I'm kind of getting to see people and meet the people who want to shape the industry, and this is also really cool because I get to work with people who are interested in making our lives like as IT professionals or people who work in IT make our lives easier. Like I never see people with malice or trying to like, take advantage of anyone. It's people. Sometimes you forget like behind these servers, behind this code, behind bugs, it's people.
Yeah.
That's exciting. And they're all people with these really cool backgrounds, these amazing lives outside of their jobs that you wouldn't see. Like, for me, that's a lot of the joy in it is the people.
100%. I mean, we wouldn't have, any of the functionality if it wasn't for the people behind all this, which
Yeah.
is kind of the idea behind this podcast too. So I love it. You're just on it today, Jeremy. You're bringing like everything back together. It's great.
It's
I
because I
love
had
it.
some trail mix and dark cherries.
You heard it here first,
Yeah.
folks.
Hype me
Jeremy
up. Yeah.
is powered by trail mix and dark
It
cherry.
is. Yeah. It's that, I'm always someone's got to sponsor us, but I won't say the names of these, but it's a very famous store that has those sections with a wall of just nuts and trail mix. Yeah, that's where I get my fuel.
I love it. Awesome. All right. Let's get into our penguin facts. I've just got a couple here, but I'm curious to see if you'll know them or not. So, the first one is true or false. You'll never see polar bears and penguins together in the wild.
I love penguins. And so the answer is no, right? Because the polar bear is very aggressive and it'll eat the penguin, right?
Yeah, kind of. I think, yeah, so it's true, but I think that that's what you
Okay,
meant
it's true.
is,
Okay.
yeah, that they actually live like in the Arctic, so you'll never see them together.
Okay, good. And also, I understand that the penguin. I realize that this is your show, and I shouldn't cut you off so much. But the penguin has no natural predator, so I
Oh,
was like,
I didn't even know that. Yeah,
the
okay.
the polar bear would. I didn't realize this. Like, I thought from like the Coca-Cola commercials that like the polar bear was totally chill, but nah, he's not. So it's
No,
like,
I
oh,
mean, they are a
yeah,
bear at the end of the day,
yeah.
They're out there. Well, we got an additional penguin fact on top of the other two, so I love it. Do you know what a group of penguins is called on land? And I can give you a couple options if I don't know if you're going to know this off the top of your head. So
Is it a is it a batch?
it's not. All
Is
right,
it
let me give you the options.
okay?
We'll go through that. So are they called a herd, a waddle, or a gaggle?
Is it a gaggle? No, that's
No.
turkeys.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's
Gaggles is turkey.
geese.
Is it a waddle?
It is, yeah. Which I mean, kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that
The
checks.
classic penguin waddle. I mean, that's a pretty common descriptor, I
No,
think. So,
absolutely checks. I was like, is it squad? If I had a group of penguins that were like my friends, like my homies, I'd call them probably squad, gang. You know?
I love it. Well, maybe I don't think it's legal to own penguins. I was gonna say maybe in some alternate future you can start adopting
Yeah, if I
penguins
have a
as
server,
pets.
if I have a server farm up in Antarctica, and I can get some employees.
Exactly. I
Who
love
else to
it.
manage Linux servers than, you know, these guys themselves?
Right. Yeah, they overlap perfectly. And you can be the first Penguin trainer to train them how to use
Teach
anything
them in
related to
IT? Yeah.
computers. Yeah.
That'd be,
So,
we can get some funding for this. I'll make it happen.
all right, we'll brainstorm. I love it. Okay, last question before I let you go. It was recently Valentine's Day. We're into March now, but so what do male penguins use to woo female penguins? Do they do a dance? Do they build little nests, or do they bring the female penguins rocks?
Is it a rock?
It is, yeah.
They
But
propose with a rock. Wow.
yeah, yeah. So kind of like us. I mean, not exactly the same kind of rock, but same concept.
Yeah, like that's I kind of so I had to think about it. I was like, I think otters do something similar, but I was like, for
Yeah, I think
penguins,
they do.
it should be, and for a second I was like, maybe they sing, maybe it's a dance, but I was like, no, rock, and also because penguins mate for life, so
Yep.
like they are. I love the commitment of penguins too. It's my favorite part of going to any aquarium or a zoo. So now if I see a penguin proposal, I'm gonna be like, let's see that rock.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. All right. Well, we learned some things about penguins. We learned some things about Linux, and we learned some things about IT in general. So, Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for
And
having me. This is fun. You
yeah,
should
this is
invite me
great.
all the time. So,
We might just like merge our podcasts.
we
No,
should.
just kidding.
No, okay, okay.
Well, we'll keep them separate because Jeremy obviously has a lot more technical knowledge than I do. But if you'd like to see his podcast or any other podcast, you can go ahead and follow us on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. And stay tuned for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thanks.